Hi, Jake. So
Yo,
thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. Now, before
thanks for
we
having
get
me.
into the new album, I'd like to jump back to the album before, which was Honesty, because I feel
Yeah,
like there's a continuation in kind of the processes of your mind in between those albums. So how do
yeah.
you look back now at Honesty?
Man, that was like part one.
Mm.
That was very much part one of a two-part series. It was I think I was trying to, particularly sonically, I was trying to introduce my listeners to a bit more of a soul side of me, a little bit more of that vibe, and also a more authentic version of me. You
Mm.
know, not just writing nice, happy-go-lucky things, but just deeper stuff. You know.
What was it like to be vulnerable like that, to open yourself up like that? Because that isn't always an easy thing to do.
Right. Um, I found it easier to sing about stuff than I did to talk about stuff.
Sure.
Um, I think for me, over the years, I've found it easier to express and communicate what I feel through song. So it was the first time going that deep, but actually it felt really natural to me at the same time.
Is that one of the reasons why you started playing music and writing songs to begin with?
Yeah, because I realized I had, as guys, sometimes we're no good at talking about how we feel,
Sure.
and a long time ago, I realized I could say things and it didn't feel corny saying that if I sang it.
But I mean, you have to be able, and I mean, the album title implies it, but you have to be honest with yourself, which is an
Oh,
interesting to do. So if we take that development from honesty to let's go through the last couple of years, how did that feeling evolve into to what would become the new album?
yeah. I think especially coming out of the Honesty album, coming out of lockdown, doing so well and being received so well, I think
Mm.
it kind of gave me a lot of encouragement and a lot of confidence to lean in a little bit more and do and explore even more honesty in this new album from When It Hurts. Yeah, it gave me the great encouragement I needed, if I'm honest. Yeah, big
But I
time.
also can imagine you're dealing with real life situations
Oh
and
yeah.
real people. So
Oh yeah.
is there any apprehension at all when you start thinking about like you're exposing your personal life to some extent?
Yeah, I think it's always scary, right? You know, when you put out art into the world and you've been honest with it, it's scary. I had some friends phone me up and be like, "Hey, is everything okay?" You know.
Mm.
um, but yeah, it's always going to be a bit nerve wracking. But at the same time, the other side of the coin, the flip side of the coin is when people message you and they're like, "Hey, that really spoke to me. I'm exactly where that song is right now," or "I felt that before." So there's pros and cons, you know, totally. And I've
Sure.
learned to go with it.
And if we take I don't know where you started writing these songs that ended up on the new album, but
Uh-huh.
I can imagine, like you said, previous album well received. You're kind of going in this direction of writing, and you mentioned last album was also you wanted to put a little bit more soul into the album.
Yeah,
So musically, then, what is your mindset as you start to write these songs?
yeah. I think I uh, I wanted to create songs for two occasions in particular. Songs for a long drive, and songs to have a bottle of wine with late at night. Um, I kind of aim for that feeling, and I think those are my sweet spots. um, and because for me, deep conversations happens on long drives, and
Mm.
also with a bottle of wine at night. And so I just thought it'd be great just to kind of make the album feel like that, you know.
Very quickly in between, then, what is your favorite road trip music?
Ooh. Uh, it has to be Paul Simon's Graceland album.
Okay, okay. Now, I don't know if I remember this correctly, but am I right in saying that that particular album by Paul Simon was kind of something that helped you develop
Definitely,
very early on?
definitely. That was the one that my dad played when I was a kid, and And yeah, I must admit, I do bring it out now. When I'm on my own, like, yeah, no one else appreciates it. It's just me on my own.
What was the magic of that album to you then?
Man, I think it's just one of those. I've never heard anything like it. At that time when I was growing up, I'd never heard any music like it.
Right.
Just a combination of South African township music and New York singer-songwriter music, folk music. Nothing's. I don't think I've ever heard anything like it since. And when you get impacted with an album like that so young, you can't just walk away. That doesn't leave your brain. So when I listen to it now, all the feelings I had then come right back. You know? So yeah, it's sonically, thematically, culturally, it just made a massive impact. Especially because that was the album was produced. The album came out actually when towards the back end of like apartheid times out in South Africa. So it's just so significant socially, sonically, culturally, on so many levels. And it just made a massive impact on me, especially with my dad playing it, you know?
Sure. And I can imagine with certain music that you listen to at that age, that sticks with you forever, right?
Totally. I love, and I'm grateful for it.
But maybe this is too far-fetched, but what did it teach you about songwriting then? And then that doesn't have to be in the beginning, but even to this day.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that album taught me about songwriting and artistry is to take risks. I'm currently just finishing off Paul Simon's biography, reading Paul Simon's biography, and just the amount of backlash that he got from South Africans, from Black South Africans and whites, the amount of Americans who were like, "Paul, what are you doing?" But then when he won Grammys and how many millions copies of albums got sold and arenas in Zimbabwe and in South Africa and globally, like he did Central Park how many times off that album? He did Royal Albert Hall how many times? Like just taking risks creatively, artistically, in fact, taking risks in life. There's a great saying, nothing extraordinary happens without risk. And I think that whole album to this day encourages me to kind of go, all right, if I've done something before, cool, Jake, what's next? Where's your heart leading? What do you want? How do you push the boundaries a little bit more?
And this notion of taking risks and putting yourself out there is obviously a good analogy for kind of entering into love and relationships as well.
Totally.
So this idea of taking a risk, and one thing I really like, and that definitely shines through on certain songs on the album, is a certain resilience in love. Not to pack your bags at the first sign of trouble, you know.
Oh yeah. It's very easy. It's very tempting.
it's so the easy way out, yeah.
Yo, bro. I like peace. I like an easy life, bro.
But
totally.
Maybe if it's too personal, you don't have to share. But was there something that happened in your life that made you realize that you should kind of stick to something before you see the results?
Yeah, I think I've been so bad at relationships. Okay. I've been so bad at just getting it right. I'm constantly getting things wrong. And I think a lot of the songs just come from, oh crap, I've messed up again. Oh, maybe I should just give up. But yeah, that's where a lot of it comes from.
But I mean, Start Again is a great example then of a song. Well, you can mess up, you could do dumb things, but at least go back to step one and try again.
Totally. And I think again, as a guy, I just think it would save a lot of relationships if a guy actually was humble enough to be like, "Hey, I've messed up. Can we try again?"
I was thinking this as I was listening to the album. Is women have figured out that communication is really important, and men are still lagging behind a little bit.
Yeah. We're still further down the road. We're not there yet.
But okay, so does writing songs then about these romantic adventures and kind of troubles as well, does that help figure things out then?
It helps. I think it helps give a voice to some things. So like for me, I don't know about you, but like a lot of the times I'm having conversations in my head and I feel like I'm going mad. But actually when you get it out, And then you have other people, other men be like, yo, I've been there. And then you have other women be like, oh, so that's what's going on. It just helps when you shine a light on something, it just helps everyone see a little bit clearer, you know?
But I can also imagine that what you mentioned, that people, the songs resonating with people, and
Yeah.
especially people that are in a similar situation, and then kind of figuring
Yeah.
out, oh, I'm not the only one who kind of struggles with these type of
Totally.
things. I mean,
Totally.
what does that do to you? And even just maybe in a broader context, just the fact that people can find something in the music that you make.
Yeah, that's the biggest privilege. I'm always thanking people for listening to my music, because there's millions of other artists out there. And it's always a privilege. So the fact that someone can identify something in my music which relates to them is, I mean, that's what art's supposed to do, right?
Sure.
So I'm so grateful for that. And I think success in my eyes is more of that. I think sometimes we can aim to do like a Super Bowl halftime show, or we can aim to, I don't know, like to pack out arenas wherever. But actually, the real success is whether someone chooses to put on your music late at night with a bottle of wine after they put the kids to bed. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Sure. And then that kid who hears their mum or dad listening to that music in the car or late at night then grows up and says, when I was younger, I grew up on this. That's the real success.
Is this how would you say it? Is this a remnant of kind of how you grew up? Because I can imagine the way the person your father was to have an impact rather than kind of this selfish gain.
Yeah.
Did you kind of grow up like that? And
totally, and it did me good. I love it. It's part of who I am now, and I think my dad wasn't a singer, but at the same time, I feel like everything that he invested in and stood for and stands for now kind of helps me really grab a hold of what art's supposed to be, what creativity is supposed to do. Art is not supposed to be for myself. Art is never supposed to be for the individual. It's supposed to be an expression of the individual for others to hopefully identify with and benefit from. There's a jazz pianist I heard recently talking, and he got asked a question. He said, so a student asked him and said, if who is jazz music for? Who is music supposed to be for? And he said it was supposed to be for the listener. And then the student said, hey, well, if it's supposed to be for the listener, what does that mean for you? And the teacher replied, well, I'm the first listener. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
So I just think that applies to art throughout, you know?
It's that because again, I kind of vaguely recall reading something about this album being written as you were doing kind of normal stuff, just living life. So is that part of it? I mean, I hear two approaches. One is you work at it or hammer at it every day from 9 to 5, and then trying to kind of make a song by force. And then the other one is waiting for that inspiration and that flash of. So am I right in saying that this album was mostly kind of that flash of inspiration type writing?
Yeah, a lot of it did. There's like one or two songs which took maybe a month to write. Okay. Just because I had to keep revisiting it. But a lot of it came together just with, I don't know, sat in the kitchen, the washing machine's going on in the background, and you're like, oh, it's a Sunday afternoon, everyone's chilling, and you got your guitar, you know. A lot of it came like that, and then I record a voice note, and then I revisit it and be like, oh, well, that was all right. And then, you know, so I think I feel like the key to, again, any creative process is just being open to when the inspiration comes. I'm just going with it, you know.
When did you, because you do a lot yourself, you play yourself, you write yourself, you produce yourself.
Badly, very badly.
Well, better than most, I would say. When do other people come into the process then? Because there's a couple of people on the album. I mean, I've had the pleasure of talking to Jack Savoretti multiple times. Great guy. How does somebody like that enter into the process?
Yeah, I think a lot of that happened through just mutual respect. So we were following each other for maybe 2 years, and I thought, hey, this would be great just to have an incredible Italian singer on this. And I reached out on Instagram. I was like, hey, how you doing, bro? Like, we've been following each other for a while. We love what each other does. And I just wondered, I've got this little song. Would you be interested? And also, I think the beauty of that is we're in different worlds, you know? So there's always like a, wow, what could happen if our worlds collided? And it did, and it came out beautiful. So that's the beauty of social media.
Sure.
When it comes to collaboration. Back in the day, you have to go through so-and-so and through so-and-so and through so-and-so. And now you can kind of be like, hey, it's a bit more of a, just a collaborative culture nowadays, you know?
Yeah, it's more informal, I suppose. It's like you say, you don't have to write a letter to ask permission and all that stuff.
Definitely.
But with that in mind, and I listened to the song, and one thing that struck me was how well your voices fit together. Is that? Hey. I mean, that's something you can't really predict beforehand, right?
Nope. And it's scary. You kind of make a song and then you send it off to the artist. So Jack in this case, you're like, well, here goes. Hope it goes well. But then you get a relief when he sends it back. You're like, oh, this is incredible.
This is gonna work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you let him write his own verse, or was it kind of already written?
Do you know what? He basically jumped in on what I'd already written, which is, again, just such an honor.
Sure. And then the other one, I also had the pleasure at one point to talk with Josh Stone, who's just incredible. Similar story then?
Yeah, totally. Actually, that one was slightly different. Again, she's Josh Stone. She's great. She's Grammy Award-winning, incredible voice for years now. And my manager knew someone on her team, and I said, "Oh, I wonder what she's up to, and would she be interested?" And so we got through that way. I sent her the song. The first time around, she couldn't commit to it because the end of last year, she was about to have a baby.
Okay.
But then she messaged back. Her assistant messaged back and said, "Hey, I'm totally still up for doing something." So we sent her that song, and we heard back, and she was like, "Look, I'm up for this." She's had the baby by then, and she was just keen. So that was incredible.
And again, well, let me ask it a little bit differently. What did you hear in Joss's voice? What compelled you to ask her?
I heard maturity. I think that song in particular, "Broken Pieces," is not. It's a song. It's not for the faint-hearted.
Sure.
And so I really wanted a voice that has lived a bit, you know, relationship-wise, career-wise, and yet someone who's, even though they've lived for a bit, they're still keeping the fire alive creatively, passion-wise, music-wise, relationally. And I tell you what, she's become quite a sister since we started working together. We were messaging even yesterday. She's in Brazil at the moment on tour. And we were like messaging at 3:00 this morning, you know, just like, "Hey, how's it going?" Blah, blah. And it's become, we're at similar points in our life, just in terms of, life, family, all that stuff. So it just felt like the right type of weight to bring to that album. And vocally, she's incredible. It just felt right. It just felt so right.
The line is 2 diamonds covered in dirt in broken pieces.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, not for the faint of heart, but the line I actually find very interesting is when we love how they love in their movies. Now, when we watch TV or listen to songs, there's always this romantic view of what love should be. And it isn't always the reality, or it might give a distorted view of what love should be. So how do you balance these two worlds?
Absolutely. I think I feel like the movies is the ideal, is what you want to aim for, but everyone knows it's not real. And if it is that, it doesn't last.
It's temporary.
Anything that lasts long isn't always going to be like that. But at the same time, there's something fascinating about trying to build your relationship in a way that actually is good, not just surface level good, but depth good, you know? So I suppose when I wrote that line, it was just kind of saying, hey, that would be great to aim for. I know we're not there yet, but could we at least, and we might never get there, but could we aim for that at least, you know?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's nice. At least you have, yeah, to try your hardest to to make it work at least. Because again, I mean, that goes back to what I was saying earlier, and I think we live in a culture or a society with instant gratification these days.
yeah,
So it's very difficult to kind of take the good with take the bad with the good in a way.
yeah.
I would think. Um, Finally, then, you are also well. I asked you before the camera turned on whether you were in the Netherlands because you are here. You play a little part in a movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
how did that come about? And was acting something always on your radar?
So during lockdown, I had an email from my publisher basically asking if I'd be interested in composing some music for a Dutch film. Um, and I was like, yeah, cool. And then I got like a, hey, would you be up for acting in it as well? I was like, well, okay.
Why not?
You know, and so I ended up during lockdown or end of lockdown coming back and forth from Amsterdam, and yeah, it was just so much fun. I'd written my first short film maybe like a year before,
Okay.
and I got awarded like 5 awards at different film festivals.
Okay.
So I've kind of been dipping my toes in just with the whole on-screen world. And yeah, and so it's out today. It's called Goodbye Stranger, and it's directed by Aaron Rukas, and it's got a great cast. And yeah, it's in cinemas across the Netherlands.
Yeah, I don't say this just to pander, but I usually don't watch Dutch films. But this one seemed actually interesting because it kind of is in the realm of where I operate as well. So in the
Music, right?
musical,
Exactly.
yeah.
That's what got me. It's actually it's in a crazy way. It kind of shows the dark side of industry and the impact it can have on the individual. Um, every industry has its ups and downs, and so does the music one. And it's a really good watch.
What has for you, and this I don't want to make it too heavy, but what for you has been one of those moments where you kind of had to realize, okay, this is what the business is like, and get
Yeah.
over that?
I think a while back, early days when I signed to Elton John, I had to deal with, every country has its like mainstream pop radio station, like the one at top tier. That's the radio station.
Sure.
And I think when it hit me was when I learned about tribes and when I learned about what's cool, what's in, what's not, and just how it works. And I realized you don't stand a chance unless you're in with the right people. And if you're not in with the right people, it can be very harsh and it can be very hard. I realized that being over here in the UK, and I think I was very tempted to give up on a lot of things.
Okay.
On a lot of things, but I'm glad I didn't. And I also realized just the importance of, hey, I'm not all over pop radio. I'm not all over, but there are a few people that are listening, so I'm going to make music for them, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah, this ties in. It's kind of the last question then. But what got you through those difficult moments? Is it the people around you? Is it, like you said, wanting to provide something interesting for the people that do listen? What got you through those moments?
The feedback I got from people who are listening to my music, and even to this day, just the incredible message I get from people in relationships. Or there was like a couple who actually, funny enough, they flew. The last time I played Amsterdam, I played Paradiso. I did Paradiso Paradiso Church, and this time I was doing Paradiso Noor, and they flew over from, I want to say, Maryland in America.
Whoa!
And basically, it was on their bucket list because the guy was at stage 4 cancer.
Okay.
So his doctors gave him permission. They flew over, and they wanted to meet, and we met. They came. My manager sorted it out, and he passed away maybe like a month ago.
Okay.
But on his bucket list was to come along to a Jake Isaac concert, which I don't know what he was thinking. That would be on my bucket list. But the reason why was because some of the songs I'd written, like like You and I Always, and some of the recent songs I'd written, had been like soundtracks to their last few years together. And when you hear stories like that, and you see those types of people on the front row who've flown however many miles, you can't just stop because your music's not on radio. You got to keep going. As long as there's money there, you just try and keep going. And if there's no money there, you make it work. And I feel like I once heard Kanye West say, we all have a limited amount of time, a certain amount of time to bring beauty to the world. And that might look different for different people in different jobs, different roles. You, in terms of what you're hosting here, and myself as a musician, we all have a specific amount of time to bring beauty to the world. And I think it's so important to try and remember that. Whether we get notoriety, whether we're famous or not, as long as we grab a hold of what am I bringing, which is beautiful to the world. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
No, I think that's a beautiful story, and it demonstrates the power of music and how much it can mean to people. So I think that's a beautiful way to end the interview. Jake, may I thank you so much.
Dank u wel.
Dank je wel.